So today we're going to learn about the product of radicals. So in product of radicals, continuation of the law of radicals of like index and like exponent. So in product of radicals, we have a lot of examples and of course a lot of different cases in solving product of radicals. We have the first one with the same index, then multiply the radicand, and the second one is don't have the like index or they don't have the same index. So now we are going to have first the same index. So in product of radicals, let's denote that nth root of A times nth root of B is equal to nth root of A times B. Where the index is the same, or pareha yung ating index, and if the index is the same, we can multiply the radicand, which is A and B. Therefore, our answer will be the nth root of A times B if they have the same index. What if ang atin namang given is nth root of A times nth root of B? Therefore, the index is not the same. So, hindi pareha yung ating index. Therefore, meron tayong iba pang process of solving ng ating product of radicals if the index is not the same. So, ito yung ating mapag-aaralan in this video for product of radicals. So, in this one, sa ating index na hindi magkapareho, meron tayong ibang process dito. So, of course, kailangan natin ma-recall how to transform radical form to rational exponent because that is the way how can we solve the product of radical. So, it is really important to recall the transforming radical to a rational and rational to radical, and as well our fraction or solving fraction. Okay, so now let's have an examples for product of radicals. Now let's have example number 1. So the first way, or we have two ways in solving this radicals. So the first way is following our law, and the second way is getting the simplified form of radical before simplifying it. So now, let's have the example number 1. Square root of 5 times square root of 5. Since our index is the same, or pareha yung index natin which is 2, automatic that is 2, then we can multiply already the radicand. So therefore, we can copy the radical sign in the square root and multiply the radicand which is 5 times 5, and it is equal to square root of 25. And as we know that 25 is a perfect square, therefore the square root of 5 is, the square root of 25 is equal to 5. So this will be our final answer. So this is for the example number 1. So now, let's proceed with example number 2. So in example number 2, we have the square root of 4 times square root of 9. So first is let's follow the laws of radical, which is if they have the same index, we can multiply the radical. Since our example number 2, they have the same index which is 2, then we can have the square root of 2 and multiply our radicand 4 times 9. And 4 times 9 is equal to square root of 36. So as we know that 36 is a perfect square, therefore square root of 36 is equal to 6. So this is the first way. So the second way is we can simplify each radical sa ating given. So if possible, if masisimplify siya. Let's have this example, or let's have the second way. So for the second way, we have the square root of 4, which is equal to 2. So let's have the given first. Let's have the square root of 4 times square root of 9. So if pwede siyang ma-simplify agad, then simplify it first. For example, square root of 4 is equal to square root of 2. So we just simplify the radical times the square root of 9, which is equal to 3. So we have simplified first the square root of 9. Then, the coefficient that we have get or the root na nasagot natin sa square root of 4 and square root of 9 is imumultiply lang natin. So therefore, 2 times 3 is equal to 6. Okay? So we have two ways in solving our radical expression or product of radicals, but it depends on which way is easy to use. Depende sa ating given na expression or problem. Sometimes kasi meron tayong given expression na mahirap gamitan ng first way. Therefore, we are using the second way. And then, there is an expression na mahirap gamitan ng second way. Therefore, we are using the first way. So, that's why we are telling you the two ways of solving the radical or product of radical. Now, this is for the example number 2. Let's proceed with our example number 3. So, for our example number 3, we have the square root of 16 times the square root of 3. Since our index is the same, so let's use the first way. First way, which is multiplying the radicand if they have the same index. Since they have the same index, let's multiply the radicand. So we have the square root, and 16 times 3 is equal to 48. So 48. And then after this is, we are going to have the getting the square root of 48. Since 48 is not a perfect square, therefore we need to get the factors of our radicand, which the factor has the highest perfect square. So the factors of 48 are, we have 24 times 2, we have 12 times 4, we also have 6 times 8, we also have 16 times 3. So these are the factors of 48. Therefore, we are going to get the factors that has a highest perfect square. Since the first factor, 24 and 2, doesn't have a perfect square, therefore we will eliminate it. Next is yung 12 and 4 natin has a perfect square, which is yung 4 natin. So, hindi natin siya i-eliminate. Next is, yung 6 times 8 natin is also 48, but wala tayong perfect square dito. So, we can eliminate the 6 times 8. And 16 times 3 has a perfect square, therefore, we will not eliminate it. So, the two factors remaining, which is yung A natin, A, or the first factor, and B. So, which of the following has a highest perfect square ng factor ng ating 48? So, let's identify. So, the first one is 4, which is perfect square, which is 2. And yung ating 16 is also a perfect square, which is 4. And the root is 4. Since 16 is the highest perfect square, therefore, ang ating 16 times 3 na factor ang kukunin natin, which is given na din siya. Siya yung given natin. Okay? So, therefore, if we are going to factor the square root of 48, babalik lang din tayo sa ating given na 16 times square root of 3. And then after this is we are going to simplify the radical if possible. So, yung ating square root of 16 is a perfect square. Therefore, square root of 16 is equal to 4. And since square root of 3 is not a perfect square, therefore, we will multiply it to our coefficient 4. And it becomes square root of 4 square root of 3. So, this is the first way, which is multiplying the radicand if they have the same index. And we are getting the factor if it is not a perfect square. Next is yung ating second way. So, sa second way natin is getting the or simplifying the radical first. So, second way. So, let's have our simplifying first. So, we have the 16 or square root of 16 times square root of 3. So, if we simplify it already, the square root of 16 is equal to 4 times square root of 3, which is wala siyang simplified form. Therefore, it is equal to 4 square root of 3. So, if we are going to use the second way in this example or in this kind of expression, it is easy yung second way. Dahil hindi na tayo kumuha pa ng factors ng ating radicand or a perfect root ng ating radicand just to simplify our answer. So therefore, again, it depends on the expression kung saan mas madaling gamitin yung ating ang ating expression. It's either in the first way or in the second way of solving. Now, let's proceed with example number 4. So for our example number 4 is we are going to have the first way. So first way natin, simplifying our radical expression. So let's simplify by multiplying the radicand since they have the same index. So we have the square root of 8 times 6 is equal to 48. So since this is equal to 48, therefore our factors here, or we are going to have the factors which has the highest perfect square. And on our previous example, the factors that we have is 24 times 2, 12 times 4, 6 times 8, 16 times 3. Since yung ating 24 times 2 and 6 times 8 is not a perfect square or wala siyang perfect square, then we will have these 2. And since 16 is a highest perfect square of 48 or a factor of 48, then we will use the 16 and 3. So let's have our square root of 16 times square root of 3. The next is we are going to simplify. Square root of 16 is equal to 4 times square root of 3. Since walang square root of 3, we will just copy it or multiply it to the coefficient 4. So therefore, it is square root of 3. So this will be our final answer. So in this example, sa ating expression, ang pinakamadaling gamitin ay yung ating first way. Bakit po? Now let's proceed with the second way and see that the second way is not applicable. It may applicable pero mahirap siyang gamitin with this kind of expression. So now, let's have the second way. For the second way, let's have our square root of 8 times square root of 6. So let's simplify first each radical expression or radical form natin. So the simplified form of our square root of 8, so the factors of 8 is 4 times 2 and 1 times 8. So ito lang yung factors ni 8, which the first factor has a perfect square. So therefore, ito yung kukunin natin. So therefore, uunahin natin yung pwedeng isimplify. Square root of 4 times square root of 2. And next is simplify our square root of 6. Since there is no factor of 6 that has a perfect square dahil ang ating square root of 6 or ang ating 6, ang factor niya is 2 times 3 and 1 times 6. So wala siyang perfect square. Therefore, we will just copy it. So kung walang factor na may perfect square or perfect nth root. Now, let's simplify. So we have the square root of 4. It is equal to 2. And then, since square root of 2 doesn't have any square root and also 6, then we will proceed with our product of radical, which if they have the same index, we multiply the radicand. So therefore, it is times the square root of 2 times 6 is equal to 12. Now, if you can see, or if our radicand can be simplified or radical can be simplified, then do it. So since 12 is a factor of our yung 12 natin is has a factor of perfect square, then we can get their factor. So the factors of 12 is 4 times 3. So let's have here 4 times 3. So ito yung factors ng 12 natin. We also have 2 times 6, also a factors of 12. We have 1 times 12. Then, we are going to get the factors that has a perfect square. If meron siyang maraming perfect square, then we will get the highest perfect square. Since isa lang naman yung may perfect square sa atin, then we will have this 4 times 3. Now, let's factor it out. 2 times the square root of 4 times the square root of ating square root of 3. Now, simplify. We have 2, the coefficient, times the square root of 4, which is equal to 2, times the square root of 3 since wala naman siyang simplified form. So, square root of 3. Now, let's simplify. So, 2 times 2 is equal to 4. And since we don't have a factors or a simplified form of square root of 3, we will multiply it to our coefficient 4. Therefore, it becomes square root of 3. Now, this is our final answer. If you can see, we have the same answer in the first way. Pero mas shorter ang ating pagsusolve using the first way in this kind of expression na square root of 8 times square root of 6. Kasi, in our second way, we have factored many times, not unlike in our first way, we have factored 1 time and get the perfect square factor. So, therefore, it depends to the given kung anong best way ang pwedeng gamitin. Now, this is for the example number 4. Now, let's proceed with example number 5. For example number 5, we have the cube root of 16 times the cube root of 4. So, here, we have another expression to solve. First way, so let's go with first way of solving. So, in first way, we multiply the index or we multiply the radicand if they have the same index. So, therefore, we have here the cube root of 16 times 4. So, it is equal to cube root of 64. So, since 64 is a perfect cube, therefore, cube root of 64 is equal to 4. So, therefore, the first way is the easiest way to solve this kind of radical or product of radical. So, now let's try the second way. I-try natin yung second way. So, yung second way, mahaba-haba ito. So, let's simplify our radical. So, the cube root of 16 and cube root of 4, first, let's identify the factors of each radical na meron siyang perfect cube. So, again, it depends on the index. So, we have in 16 factors of 2 times 8. We have 4 times 4. We have we have another factors of 16. So, I think we don't have any factors of 16 aside with this and 1 times 16. But therefore, 16 is not a perfect cube. We can eliminate it. Next is, yung 4 natin is a perfect square but not a perfect cube. Therefore, we also eliminate this one. And the first factor that we have is 2 and 8, which is 8 is a perfect cube. So, ang hinahanap natin, perfect cube. Therefore, the factors that we are going to use is 2 and 8. So, let's simplify or factor the cube root of 16. Let's start with the simplified one na pwede nating isimplify, which is square root of 8, cube root of 8, times cube root of 2. And next is simplify natin tong cube root of 4. Since we don't have any cube root of 4 or a factor of 4 that is a perfect cube, therefore, we have the cube root of 4. So, if you're going to ask, 4 has a factor, which is 2 times 2 and 1 times 4. Pero neither of the two factors ay may perfect cube. So, therefore, wala tayong kukuning factor. Pag wala tayong kinuwang factor, we will just copy the radical form. Now, let's proceed with simplifying. Cube root of 8 is equal to 2. Then, cube root of 2 ay wala po tayong simplified. Therefore, we are going to copy it. And then, cube root of 4, wala din tayong simplified. So, therefore, copy natin. Cube root of 4. Next is doing the product of radical, which is if they have the same index, just multiply the radicand. So, let's multiply 2 times. So, cube root of 2 times 4 is equal to 8. Since our cube root of 8 is a perfect cube, then we can simplify it already. So now we have 2 times and cube root of 8 is equal to 2. And simplify 2 times 2, it is equal to 4. So this is our answer. And if you can see, we have the same answer sa ating first way, but the second way is longer method. Therefore, in example number 5, the best way in solving is the first way. Now, let's proceed with example number 6. So for our example number 6, let's have first the first way. First way is multiplying the radicand. So we have the cube root of, so 81 times 16 is equal to the cube root of 1,296, if I'm not mistaken. So our radicand is too much bigger. So therefore, if this is our case, we need to get the factors of 1,296. So I think that 1,296, if we get the factor of it, ay meron tayong, so let's have the factors of 1,296. So we have here the 2 times 648 is a factor of 1,246. And we have the 3 times 432. We also have 4 times 324. And we have 6 times 216. Since 1,296 is not divisible by 5, then wala tayong factors na 5. Then, let's have 8 times 162. And let's have the 9 times 144. And also, kung meron pa tayo na factors of our 1,296, we have 12 times 108 and many more. So marami tayong factors ng 1,296 and it is very hard to find the factors of 1,296 that has a perfect cube. Okay, so if we are going to try this one, this is a perfect cube. But you need to get the factors of 162. Kukuha pa tayo ng factors na 162 that has also a perfect cube. So we are going to repeat and repeat the process over and over again. So if we are going to solve this, meron tayong factor dito na I think it is 216. Ito. The perfect cube, 216 times 6. So let's try this one. This is a perfect cube. So let's have the cube root of 216 times the cube root of 6. And the cube root of 216 is 6. And we don't have a cube root of 6, therefore we multiply it. Cube root of, so 6 and cube root of 6. So therefore, you need to find every factors that you have in our given radicand so that you can get the perfect nth root. So it is a longer method kasi you need to find the factors. But you can still get the answer. what if there's an instances that you got the lower factors or a lower factor of the nth root? So you are going to do it over and over again. Okay, so now this is the first way. Now let's have the second way. Second way of solving this kind of expression. So the second way can be, let's have this second way. So let's write the given cube root of 81 times cube root of 16. So, ang ating pagsisimplify ng bawat radical makes us easy to solve it kasi mas bumababa yung radical or yung radicand natin. So, let's try solving this one. So, we have the cube root of 81. Since yung 81 natin is not a perfect cube, we need to get their factor. So, yung 81 natin, ang factor niya na may perfect cube or yung factor niya ay meron tayong 9 times 9. We have 27 times 3. We also have, so yung 81 natin, ayan na, 27 times 3. If we are going to divide it, or if we are going to get the factors of our 81, so I think yan na yung pinaka common factors that we have. So therefore, we need to get the perfect cube. So ang perfect cube natin is 27 times 3 because 27 is a perfect cube. So therefore, we have cube root of 27 times cube root of 3. And next is we need to get the factors of our second radical. So yung 16 natin. So yung 16 natin, meron siyang factor na 8 times 2, 16 times 1, and 4 times 4. Since ang ating perfect cube dito ay yung ating 8, therefore ito yung kukunin nating factor. So let's have our multiplication or times to the cube root of 8 times cube root of 2. So now we have factored the two radical expression or radical form. Now let's simplify. Cube root of 27 is equal to 3 times cube root of 3, wala siya. So therefore we will copy it. Cube root of 3. Next is cube root of 8, meron po tayong cube root of 8. Therefore, we will multiply it to here. So, cube root of 8 is equal to 2. So, times 2. And cube root of 2, wala tayong simplified form. Therefore, we will copy it. Times cube root of 2. Now, what are we going to do is to multiply the coefficient that we have and also the radicand since our index is just the same. So, multiply natin itong 3 and 2. So, 3 times 2 is equal to 6. Times natin kay cube root of 3 times cube root of 2. So, since they have the same index, we can write the cube root and multiply the 3 and 2. So, it is equal to 6. And 6 times cube root of 6, since wala tayong perfect cube ng 6, therefore, our final answer is 6 cube root of 6. Now, you can see, we can get the factors or we can simplify our radical expression of product of radical in the two way. So in this one, I cannot identify if what way is the easiest way. It depends to you kung saan tayo mas komportable. Next will be our example number 7.
Now, let's have for the example number 7. So, for our example number 7, we have the square root of 3 and times cube root of 4. So, here in our example, not unlike with the previous example, they have the same same index, but in our example number 7, they don't have the same index. So what are we going to do if we have this kind of expression? Our radical expression don't have the same index. So what are we going to do is to first transform our radical expression into a rational exponent. So therefore, our square root of 3 and cube root of 4, if we're going to convert it into our rational exponent, then it becomes the base here is 3. So yung base natin ay 3. The exponent will be a fraction form. So the numerator is 1 because of the exponent. Since we don't have exponent, it is automatic 1. And the index will be the denominator of our fraction exponent. So therefore, we have 3 and 1 halves. Now next is, we have here the base 4 para sa ating second radical. We have the exponent numerator of 1 and then our denominator is 3. So what are we going to do is to have a new fraction of exponent which the denominator will be the same. So paano po ba natin gagawin iyon? We need to get their LCD. So for example, we have the base 3 and 4 and the LCD of our exponent or the denominator is 6 because of multiple. So therefore, the new denominator is 6. So what are we going to do next? So let's proceed with division and multiplication. Divide the LCD to our denominator, first denominator, then it is equal to 3, and then multiply it to the numerator, then it is equal to 3. And that is the new numerator, 3. Okay? Next is, yung ating second fraction of exponent, yung 6 natin is i-divide natin sa denominator of our original denominator. Therefore, 6 divided by 3 is 2. Then multiply it to the numerator. Then it is equal to 2. So therefore, this is the new fraction of our exponent. If you're going to ask that 3 over 6 and 2 over 6 can be simplified, yes, it is. But if you're going to simplify it, your answer will be 1/2 and 1/3. Therefore, we are not simplifying it because 1/2 and 1/3 doesn't have the same denominator. And if they don't have the same denominator, and if we are going to convert it into radical, then they don't have the same index. So therefore, etong nakuha natin na 3 over 6 and 2 over 6, since they have the same denominator, we can convert it into radical form na magiging pareha na ang kanilang index. Bakit po? Because our denominator is now same. Now, let's convert it into radical form. So we have the radicand 3. And we have the exponent of 3, and we have the index 6. So now we have this form of radical. Now let's proceed with the second. We have the radicand 4, exponent of 2, and the index of 6. Now they have the same index. Now what are we going to do next is to simplify our radical expression. So let's have the product. Since we have discussed already that if the exponent is greater than the index, then we can simplify it. But since our exponent is smaller value than our index, then what are we going to do is to simplify first our radicand. So therefore, we are going to simplify the 3 cubed and 4 squared. So our answer here will become 6 root of 27 times 6 root of 16. Okay? So after simplifying it, is we can multiply already the radicand. Bakit po natin siya i-multiply? Since we don't have any factors of 16 that is a perfect sixth root, and also to 27, we don't have a factor that is a perfect sixth root, then we will proceed with our multiplication of radicand since they have the same index. Okay, so let's have our multiplication. So our answer here is, so let's have this one. So same index, then we are going to copy it. Sixth root of 27 times 16 is equal to sixth root of our 432. Okay? So if you wanted to know if there is a perfect sixth root of 32, then if you are going to list down any factors or the factors of 432, wala po. Therefore, kung wala tayong factors ng 432 that is perfect square or perfect sixth root of our 432, therefore, this will be our final answer. So this is how we solve our radical exponent, a radical expression with different index. Now, let's proceed with our 8th example. So to our 8th example, we have the square root of 2 times cube root of 2. So first is, let's identify if they have the same index. Since they don't have the same index, the index of this one is 2 and the index of the other is 3, then they don't have the same index. Then, let's make it a rational exponent. So the base is 2, the exponent is 1/2. And the other one, the base is 2, and the exponent is 1/3. So now, get the LCD. So, ang ating LCD is 6. So, let's put the LCD 6. And then, proceed ulit tayo sa division. 6 divided by 2. Then, times natin sa 1. Okay? So, 6 divided by 2 is 3. Multiply sa 1, it is equal to 3. So, the new fraction is 3 over 6. Next is 6 divided by 3 is equal to 2, and let's multiply it sa 1. So, it is equal to 2. So, we have 2 over 6. Now, if they have the same denominator, then we can convert it again to a radical form. So, let's convert it into radical form. Therefore, it becomes radicand is 2, exponent is 3, and our index is 6. Next is, times natin sa radicand na 2, exponent of 2, and our index of 6. Now, let's simplify. Since mababa si exponent kaysa sa index, simplify natin yung radicand natin. And it becomes 6 root of 2 cubed is equal to 8 times 6 root of 2 squared is equal to 4. Next is to simplify our radicand. So therefore, our 6th root of, so they have the same index, therefore we multiply the radicand. 8 times 4, it is equal to 6th root of 32. And there is no a perfect 6th root of 32 or a factor of 32 that is a perfect 6th root. Therefore, our final answer would be 6th root of 32. So if you are going to check it, you can have this 6th root of 2 raised to 5. Since smaller values is 5 kaysa sa index, then we are going to simplify it. Kaya siya magiging 6th root of 32. So these are the examples of product of radicals.